Ooh. Welcome back to another cup of tea. I'm the pine.
And I'm the water, and that sounded very mellow.
It's part of the fact that I'm sick right now.
And you're listening to A Cup of Tea.
A podcast about exploring life through each other's eyes.
While sharing a cup of tea with you.
Mm-hmm.
And today we're having, what is this concoction that you made?
A concoction? It's a Mandarin spice black tea. Although I do feel like we've been cheated. Because we added almond milk to it. And now all I can taste is the almond milk.
Yeah.
So we need to try this again with oat. So that
it's nice. Like the best experience. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's still nice. I'm over the almond thing by now. It was like the first sip. Where it was like
I can
very
still smell
almondy.
the coconut though.
Really? Well, the thing is that it's almond and coconut milk. Very weird. I prefer coconut myself, but they didn't have it at the store, so I had to get almond coconut. Which I'm like, what? But anyway.
Who?
Right? Like, why?
No, I don't know.
Why the need to make a product that's almond coconut milk? You have almond, you have coconut. Like,
just
why?
stick with one.
Yeah. If you really want to mix them, you can just do it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyways, indeed. So I'm very intrigued by what you want to talk about today.
Oh, yeah. So, in our forever pursuit of choosing what we're going to talk about in each episode, I told the water that we could talk about how it's going with my therapy. Because it's a thing.
Quite a ride.
Yeah, like I feel like the biggest ride ever in therapy for me. It's one of those therapies that you see maybe in movies or whatever, where like it goes back to your childhood and you figure out what happened and why it changed you forever. It's that kind of therapy. So now, like, my whole self-identity is just hanging by the balance because it's like who I could have been, but I didn't become because I became this.
It sounds very...
See? I told you.
Yeah, you were not hyping it up too much. This
we'll see.
Okay.
We will see. Okay, so this all begins with the fact that I don't know if you saw that, but Safito kind of like...
Or if you're just listening, Safito just like fell out of the couch.
Yeah.
And like she tried to hold on, but she couldn't. Yeah. Just tumbled backwards.
She's adorable. She's silly. Anyways.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll be back. She tends to do that, I guess. Okay. So this all started with the fact that when I moved to Canada... Safito... No, okay. Well, she might be making noises.
Yeah.
But okay.
Yeah.
Well,
when you moved to Canada.
When I moved to Canada, I had to live with my brother and his kids. Whom, like, I should stop calling them kids. Right? Like, that's the thing I noticed in therapy. I need to not call them kids.
Acknowledge that they're not kids
they are
anymore.
Not kids anymore. Yes, indeed. So, they are young adults. But like baby adults. They're not even young adults. Because we are young adults.
Yeah.
They're baby adults.
They're teenagers.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So I had never lived with them. I barely lived with my brothers when I was little. And I left my mom's house early. I guess. For our standards.
Yeah.
So yeah, first time living with my family. And that was huge. The thing is that I was concerned, but I was concerned of like what's like normas de convivencia.
Rules of engagement.
Is that what that is?
No, that's like military kind of.
Yeah.
No, but it's taking me back to that episode that we made where you were about to leave and we were talking about like your expectations for living with your brother and the kids who are no longer kids. And the rules of engagement, kind of seems like it's appropriate.
Sure. So I was worried about, like, if they were going to be tidy enough, if they were going to wash the dishes, if I was going to, that kind of stuff. That was my expectation. However, I was in for so much more. And one of the very big things that I definitely did not expect was to understand what being a sibling feels like in a specific way. And I feel you have a better understanding of the experience of a sibling than I do. Because I feel I've always told myself that I live in this weird limbo where I have siblings, but I'm also an only child. Yeah. So, like, that what I meant by I actually had the feeling of having siblings was that for the first time in forever, I saw myself in my brother. It was very funny. We would have to work. We had a job together, and when it was just me and him, sometimes we would find each other like walking around, and we were walking the same way. We like walk around with our hands behind our back, like. That's really funny. Yeah, and like I would see him, and I was like, oh. And then and another time he saw me, and he's like, why are you walking like that? And I'm like, that's how I walk. Not normally, not like in life. In life, yeah. No, I don't walk with my hands behind my back, but like in certain instances, because this job meant that I was walking by myself for many hours, and I was just like doing the rounds kind of thing. So, and I used this time to listen to podcasts and audiobooks and things like that. So it was very sort of meditation-y and kind of stuff. And I walk with my hands behind my back, and my brother does too. And that's one of the simple and more superficial things that I noticed. But it got to a point where we were both listening to podcasts and books and things, and we started talking like we had never talked. It was very nice. We were discussing philosophy and psychology and feminism and things like that. And he was interesting to talk with. Okay. Safito is back apparently. And it made me. It was very weird. I had because in my family I was always the weird one. I was always the odd one. And even there's this thing that my family does, my extended family, where like my mom's side of my family, which is technically my only family, they all go by my granddad's last name. And everybody, even if my cousins, even if their dads have a different last name, everybody just does like the family's last name. That's a thing. But in my little family with my mom and my brothers, I never did that. It was always them, and I was my dad's. So
yeah, I can see that.
So I always felt very separate. And even during my teenage years, I became super detached, and you are aware.
Oh yeah, she did.
And it's not that I didn't care about people, but I just it wasn't. I didn't care in a mean way. I guess focused on me. So that part of meeting my brother, I felt like I was meeting him. That, like, because this very weird thing happened to me where it's like there's this family tree and like I know who goes where, but it's just that. It's just pictures. It's just an image. It's just an idea of who my brothers are. But I never knew what it felt like. Because the extent of my brothers' brotherly relations to me was like when I was little, they would tease me, or like whenever I had a boyfriend, they were assholes about it. And that was it. I mean, my experience of it, because I do know that, you know, my brother took care of me when I was little because my mom worked a lot. So like he would take me to school and he would take care of me and watch me and all of that, right? But that's not my experience. I don't remember. Anyways. So that was huge. That was one of those very important, meaningful to who you are kinds of things. To the point where at one time I had a conversation with my brother and I told him I've always felt like the odd one out. And for the first time, I feel like I'm part of this, you know, with him and the non-kids. Yeah. And that was big. That was you know me. So like that feeling of being part of something like spoke deep inside of me. Yeah. Cut to now in Vancouver and me living my brother and the non-kids. And for fate's works, my brother and I are not speaking right now. And it's one of those things where it took me a long time to realize that it wasn't just like, because my mom thought it was just like a siblings misunderstanding, you know? And she would be like, oh, you guys are being silly. You guys, it's a misunderstanding. You just need to talk it out. And I was like, no, it's not. This goes way beyond that. This goes, you know, talking about, because at some point when we lived in Quebec, me and my brother, we also talked about how our lives were very different. They were, you know, 13, 14 years apart. We had a different mom, even though it's the same mom. And it was very interesting because at some point we asked each other, like, who would you be if you had my opportunities, or who would I be if I had your situation? You know, so that was very bonding to me. And now that we're not talking, I am not talking to him out of self-protection, out of setting boundaries. Yeah. And he has his reasons for not talking to me. But the thing is that it was too big a thing for me. I never thought that this thing with my brother would be so, it moved me too much. Yeah. You know, I would have bad dreams. I would, it was affecting like my everyday life. And I was like, what is this? What is happening right now? How am I being affected by this so much? Yeah. You know, I went years without like not having a real relationship with my brothers, you know, just like a whatever. Oh yeah, they're there. Yeah. I'll see them on Sunday. Things. Yeah. So I was like, what? And it was until I noticed that I was bringing that baggage into my home, like into my relationship, that I was like, I can't be bringing that into my relationship to Pablo because it's not fair. It's not fair to him. It's not fair to me because okay, so like it's definitely not fair to me, but I have this thing of like I can do it all on my own. And a powerful, independent woman a fault.
We knew.
Yeah. So it took me realizing that it was unfair to Pablo to finally tell myself and accept to myself that it was unfair to me, and that I actually needed to go to therapy, which I know in theory. I'm a psychologist. It's like 101. I know, but it's one of those things that it's hard to like admit.
I mean, it's like doctors know wanting to go to the doctor.
Do they not want to go to the doctor?
No, I mean, the doctors I know, like in my family.
Yeah.
And like I think in general, it's like this. There's this concept of doctors don't like to go to the doctor because they kind of like know. Like, oh, I know what's wrong with me, so I can fix it.
Yeah.
or like, why should I go to somebody to tell me what's wrong with me when there's nothing wrong? Like, or being in denial, kind of.
No, mine is like I can fix it myself.
Yeah,
that's my thing.
That's
like I got it. Don't worry. So yeah, it's like that. But then, one way or another, sorry, I got to that epiphany. Like, fine. I hear you, universe. I need to do this. So I scheduled my appointment. Yes, and Safito is always here to help me. Oh, I love her so much. So I scheduled my appointment, and I met with my psychologist from Mexico. And she already had the prior. She knew. I saw her before coming to Canada, and she knew my worries and whatever, and like fine. So I proceeded to tell her all that went wrong and all that went right in those months of living together. And something that I appreciated as a psychologist was that she didn't she didn't go with it to say that it was my brother's fault. You know, she never agreed that it was my brother's fault.
Yeah.
Which, you know, if you're talking to a friend, that's what you want, right? But if you're talking to a psychologist,
yeah, you're gonna get the hard truths.
Yeah, and you know, not to say that when people are victims of not nice situations, it's not the other person's fault, but it shouldn't be, I think, or at least in this case, that shouldn't be the focus, right? It's not about where you place the blame.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do about it? So that was nice. And we proceeded to do this very interesting thing where she took out a board and some figurines to represent me and my family. Okay. So she's like, okay, so this one's you. Where are you going to put yourself on the board? And I'm like, oh, in the middle. Like, of course. So she puts me in the middle. And then, like, where are you going to put your mom and your dad? Well, not like that. She's actually asking me to tell her who comes next. So then I think I took out my dad. And then, like, oh, we're going to put him. Where do you want him? And I'm like, oh, put it there. And then who is next? Oh, my mom. Put her there. And then, oh, my sibling, whatever. Oh, put him there. And my other sibling, put him there. Okay. So now we have, like, my small family. So, like, the non-kids didn't count. She was like, not yet. Like, just this. You guys. I was, okay. First thing she tells me, like, it's interesting because your mom and your dad are backwards. And I'm like,
what do you mean backwards?
I already knew that. Yeah. So I'm not sure what theory she's getting it from, but it's right.
That
my mom was my father and my dad was my mother. So, like, my mom, because she was a single mom and she raised my brothers alone, and then there was me and whatever, she became a father. She became the provider. She became some sort of structure. She became the rules and the no and and she wasn't very warm. She's gotten a lot better. Yeah, she's gotten a lot better. Come a long way. But when I was a kid, she wasn't fussy.
Yeah.
You know? Mm-hmm. So she was my father. Or this figure of a father. Not that dads can't be fussy. And my dad, there we go, was very fussy. And warm and cuddly and very feelings oriented and understanding. And he would listen to me and he, you know.
Yeah.
So there we go. My mom and my dad were backwards. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, I've noticed. So I was like, it is the truth. The board is telling the truth. And then we kept talking about where I am. And we realized that my roles in my relationships are all messed up. So apparently when I was little, because I was kind of very alone. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things where it's not about what actually happened. Mm-hmm. It's about what your experience of what happened is.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe I was never alone and my brothers were always there and played with me or whatever. Or my mom was there or whatever. But like my experience was that I was very alone. Mm-hmm. So, and before therapy, I had thought about it and I was like, I really, without going too much into research, think that my attachment was very ambivalent, not secure attachment. Like they're there but not really there, and then they're not there when you need them to be there. And I was like, yeah, that probably messes me up. So in therapy, it was like, yeah, it did mess me up because I was very alone.
Yeah.
I had to like meet my own needs and make myself independent because I didn't have another option. And so I took roles that I shouldn't have taken. So forward that to the living in Quebec with them. So I'm technically the little sister to my older brother. I became the older sister. I am the aunt of the non-kids. I became their mom, their big sister, and I became my mom. Like I became their grandma, and I became my brother's mom. So I was everything but what I should have been.
Yeah.
And a lot of I had a big struggle with my niece because with both of them, my niece and my nephew. Because I wanted to help them and be there for them. I guess because I wanted to be there for them, like people were not for me. Well, I mean, my dad was. But in other ways, he wasn't. Yeah. So, and I had to face a very harsh reality where it came to, like, I can't save them the way I want to save them. So I need to, like, go back to... And that's basically what therapy told me to do, which was to go back to my original roles in my relationships and my family and whatever.
Yeah.
So that was harsh. It's still hard, but like at least with my nephew and my niece, I feel like I'm getting the hang of it. And even with my brother, because I went through a process of like being hurt by him not talking to me and trying to allow myself to be hurt and angry. And then I didn't have to, but after processing it, I came to a place of like, I feel like me and my brother are going through similar things on our own. Whatever happened to us, because I'm like, if I had ambivalent attachment, I had my dad. He didn't even have that, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm like, he's going through something. If I'm going through something, then you know, like he's going through his own thing, I came to a very peaceful place where sorry, Safito distracts me. I go to a very peaceful place where I could be okay with the fact, because I had to become very understanding of people. I had to become too empathetic, and like see other people's needs, kind of. And it's weird. Maybe I haven't cracked that part quite yet, as to how those dynamics happened. But one way or another, I became very aware of people's feelings and people's needs, and I kind of, at the same time, I became very aware of mine. But somewhere along the way, I became very kind of like people pleasy, and like I would look at others' needs before mine, because like I could handle mine, but people could not handle my needs. So I didn't allow people to handle my needs, which is something that we've talked about in our relationship, right?
We have.
That's very nice, and I appreciate that that's come about. But yeah, so it came to a point where like I don't trust people to be able to handle my needs. And the other like big revelation that has messed me up is that I pay for my relationships.
You pay for your relationship?
I pay for my relationships. Yes. That was like, oh damn.
Okay.
Because there was this thing about money where, you know, somehow, by whoever's fault or nobody's fault, I took charge of the finances of the family, you know, and just managing it. That's all it was.
Yeah.
But at some point, you know, through the struggles or whatever, I had to put up my money as a bank, so that we would run out of money. We would use my money as bank, and then we would work, and then we would all pay me back, right? In like parts.
Yeah.
And at some point that became a thing because we were in a very difficult place. We were all struggling a lot. It was a time where we didn't know where we were going to live next, or if we had a place to live next. And I also realized that I understand love through money, because both my mom and my dad gave me money to show me that they cared about me. So in different ways, because my mom, by not being very touchy-feely, the way that she, like, her love language is to make sure that you're okay, that you have food, that you have a house, and that you're okay in that way.
Yeah.
You know? And yes, my dad was a lot better at the feelings and the listening to me and all of that, but he was very absent from my life. And the way that he made up for that was by paying for my school, by paying for my trips, for my travels, for, you know? So I have a very interesting relationship to money. And it has, I feel like it's made me see relationships in a very transactional way. And these realizations that I pay for my relationships came from this whole, I was the bank situation. I felt very, so because I had my savings, they gave me, in a very dark time, they gave me a false sense of security. So I was trying to get some sense of security.
Yeah.
And I wanted people to pay me back.
Yeah.
And it's not just that they wouldn't, or I mean, they would, but it was difficult time, so it was hard, I guess. But the way that it got twisted so that I was the villain for asking for my money, that like really hurt me. And I was like, but like, because there was this theme that we were a pack, we were a family. And I was like, well, if I'm part of the pack, I'm doing my part because I want to help us. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to put my savings up. I'm going to put them on the line, mm-hmm. So that we can survive. Now that we've survived, or we're still trying to survive, mm-hmm. I have to think that I need to survive on my own.
Yeah.
And so like I worked for that money, and it's not just the money per se, it's the false sense of security mm-hmm. that I felt like I needed. Yeah. And by people denying me or accusing me, I felt like then they didn't care about me. Mm-hmm. And that was the hurtful part, mm-hmm. Because people think that it's about the money, or like my mom thought that it was about the money. And she was kind of disappointed in me mm-hmm. that I cared about the money. Mm-hmm. And that also hurt me. I was like, I'm not the villain here. Yeah. I wanted to help. I wanted to take care of them. I wanted to be a part of the pack, part of the mm-hmm. family. But how is the family taking care of me?
Yeah.
Not my mom. My mom definitely took care of me, but I just meant the other part. Mm-hmm. So I was telling my therapist all of this thing about the money and how I felt and everything. And we came to this realization of like how I was literally paying to have a family. I was paying them to be my family, and when I asked for that money back, I wasn't received with the family that I thought that I bought.
Yeah.
So that was really hard. It was like, how lonely did I have to feel, and what did I have to twist in my mind to make me pay my family to be my family?
I mean, I don't know, that takes me to how I feel like, so it takes me back to my childhood, because there was a time when my mom would fight a lot with my grandparents. Like my mom
like
with not with her parents, with my dad's parents.
Oh.
Because I don't know that we've told this in a cup of tea, but
I know they're like getting the really good stuff about us.
This is very juicy. So my parents divorced, and it was a very ugly divorce, and it went on and on for years, like the legal battle mm-hmm. side of it. And my mom didn't want my grandparents to give us money or to give us stuff. Mm-hmm. She was like, no, he has to give them stuff. He has to,
so like your dad would
my dad
take responsibility.
Yeah. And so my mom one day, there was this thing, like, so when I was, I don't know, I think it was, it was not 15. I was like 12 or something. And I went to Argentina to the literature contest. Mm-hmm. And as a prize, my grandparents bought me my first iPod.
Ooh.
But my mom didn't want me to accept it. She was like, no, don't take it. And I'm like,
to a child.
I really want my iPod. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Why? And she would say, like, if I take the present, it means that they can exert some control over me.
But how would that work?
Because
like I'm getting Emily Gilmore vibes right now.
Yeah.
But like,
see, that's why I see Emily Gilmore and my grandma like being very similar.
How does it work that they can like?
Because you feel indebted to people, I think, especially when you have no criteria and no way of reasoning things or no way to understanding them as a kid, and somebody gives you something that you really want, then you're like, oh my god, you're amazing because you gave me the thing that I really wanted. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I feel the same way as how in general kids love grandparents because grandparents mean that mean presents or mean vacation or mean like nice
all
stuff that your parents don't give you.
Yeah.
Or that they scold you about, or
Yeah, they spoil you.
Yeah, so it's kind of like along those lines. And it also, I think, comes from, in the particular case of my grandma, she relates to people in that way. Like being here, for example, every week, she's like, which I really appreciate because I do really need the money. So every week she's like, how are you doing? Do you need money? Should I send you more? Or should I not send you that much? And I'm like, oh, thank you. Like, really, thank you so much. But yeah, and so I noticed, for example, that she kind of does the same thing with my brother, but my brother plays her a little bit. And I don't want this to be very mean towards him or anything, but when he needs something, he calls her and he asks how she's doing, and like they talk for maybe an hour. But if he doesn't want anything from her, he won't call her.
I've seen that too. It happens in my family as well, which is very sad.
Yeah.
I'm like, because, okay, and it doesn't have, it's not just one person in my family. Like, it's more, but like, that's the thing where it's okay to ask.
Yeah.
Your mom, your grandma, whatever, older person or whomever is
responsible adult.
Exactly, responsible adult to like help you out or that kind of thing. But it's not fair. Me and my mom had a very distant relationship, right?
Yeah.
And after the preserve, when I wanted to come back to Mexico, I was very adamant. I was like, I want to work on my relationships. Because, again, it's that thing. I didn't feel like I fit in. I wanted to find my family, or like, I do have a family. It's right there. I need to work on it. And it was a conscious effort to work on my relationship with my mom, to allow her in, even though, there's very, very few times I have tried to open myself to her the way I did with my dad. And she doesn't measure up to my dad because she's not my dad. They have different, to each their own. Yeah. And it's not fair for me to expect her to be my dad. But she's still, again, she's come a long way on her own, and she's had a lot of things to work on. But our relationship as a mother and daughter has improved so much. But, it was a decision. Like, I can see it. I can see that I made a decision, and that, because, she would complain to me about other people, and she'd be like, they don't care about me, or like, this person just calls me when they want something from me, and like, we're family. I'm going to be there for them. But, it has to be reciprocal.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not going to do that to my mom. I'm going to work on this. I'm going to do this. And it's an effort of calling or of checking in. And I feel it was when it was partly when I sort of happened, but then also decided to see my mom as a person and not a mom. Yeah. Because as a mom, I feel like they're supposed to check in on you, so you don't really check on them. But once you see them as a person, it's like your friends. Yeah. If you want to keep your friends, you check on them. So like, you check on your mom. Yeah. So yes, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and I can, I feel like it's a very the kind of thing you see in the movies or on TV where it doesn't have to be rich, but they tend, like in the movies, they tend to be like the rich parent controls the kids because they have the money and they do like they pull strings with the money. And I can see how it can provide people with a way of feeling like they're taking care of people, feeling like they're there for another person without actually being there, like without fully vulnerably being there for them. Mm-hmm. So it's like with my grandma. So because I know that I'm giving you money and you're well taken care of, like in my head, right? Then you're fine. Yeah. And you don't need to tell me about your, like, I mean, I could tell her about my stuff and my problems and like that kind of thing. But we haven't built that kind of relationship, right? So I don't go to her like in that first week of being here. Yeah. And like when I called you and I was like crying and I said, I don't want to call my grandma and cry, you know? It's I don't know, maybe it's just the nature of relationships of how some people are in, like, and I think we were talking about this in a way regarding one of our friends, of taking people as they come. And yes. Mm-hmm. And even though you may want to invest a lot in them, when you're not getting that return of investment, it's okay. Like, I learned that's the boundary. That's where this is the amount of energy I'm gonna put into this. And because I'm not getting it back, then, you know, that's the top limit.
That's a harsh one.
It is.
Of like, when you're not seeing your investment, when you're not getting back what you're giving in. Yeah. And that's like what's happening to me now. I'm struggling after learning, after realizing all of this. Mm-hmm. I'm sort of in a very vulnerable place where I look at my relationships and I don't know if it's part of the process, if I'm like, I don't know, but I look at my relationships and it's like I have an alarm of like, or like a monitor, you know, a security guard, something. It's just looking. And it's just like, are you getting back what you put in? Are you? and it's being very draining. Like, I'm just like, I don't want to keep count.
Yeah.
You know? But like, I will say, I think in our case, I feel like, I do remember we talked about it, feelings-wise.
I'm curious where this is going.
Well, I think it kind of never was like the way that I'm feeling right now, like with my relationships in general, of like, am I getting back what I'm putting in? I don't think I've quite felt it with us, except for that like feelings conversation that we had, where because I don't open up to others, or it's hard to be there for me because I don't allow people to be there for me. Yeah, that thing. But I think a lot of it is that money-wise, we are very we're very straight. We're very, you know, like, we go out and there's no money problems. Yeah. And that doesn't mean that we always have money, because sometimes we're short and we're like, I don't have enough money, or like, let's not go out because I don't have money, and that's okay. Yeah. But it's always been like, oh, I pay, and then you pay, and then the other person pays, and then we go out for lunch, and then we go out for coffee, and then, you know, like, I've never had to keep count. Yeah, that's, you know, I have thought about it many times.
You have. I have, because there's some friends that I love them. They're great. But it stresses me out that, because I know that they have more money than I do, and they always buy stuff. Like, we go out and they take the check, right? And I'm like, no, let me do it. Because, like, let's be even about this. But they always do it, and or maybe not all the time,
but like most
of the time. It's not, doesn't feel 50-50. It's not 50%. So it makes me feel very self-conscious about it. Like, I don't know. Like,
do you feel like you owe?
I don't know if I owe them necessarily.
Not that you actually do, but do you feel like you do?
Yeah, a little bit. Like, yeah, it's like an uneasy feeling, and then and that's always something that I've been always very, maybe silently, because I don't think that I ever told you, but silently grateful for. Like, this, it doesn't give me a headache every time we go out.
I'm grateful for it too. Because in my case, I don't feel like I owe people. I always feel like I'm the one being owed. But it has to do, not with money, but that thing of like, because I close up to people being there for me, I don't even give them the chance, right? So you really have to like fight yourself through to be there for me. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. So, yeah, see? So then I think that unconscious behavior, which is conscious now, produces me feeling owed in my day-to-day life.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because when I was having those like money issues, when I moved to Canada and like moving to Vancouver and all of that conversation and all of that family situation I was having, I kept asking myself, like, why does this matter so much to me? Because I see my mom, and my mom just like gives. And part of me is like, I wanna love like that, you know? Although, like, I see it. I see it. I see what that is. It's not, it comes from love, but it comes from brokenness as well.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I wanna, it's that thing like, why do I care? Why did I care so much about it? Why was it so important? Why was it making me feel the way that it was making me feel? Because it's also this energy about money, you know, the way that my mom made me, the whole situation, but like each person playing a role made me feel ways, even myself. This feeling that I had, like I was being the villain, like I was in the wrong, like I was being petty and selfish, and I was not being part of the family or whatever, because it's money and it's superficial and it's dirty, and I should not care about money. And I was like, dude, first of all, my parents taught me that money is love. Second of all, I worked for that, and I'm going through something really dark, and it's going to give me a false sense of security. And it's false because, I mean, there is some sense of security because I'll be able to sleep in a hotel one more night.
Yeah.
But it's also a false sense of security because after that, what happens next? You know? So like I'm very aware that it's a false sense of security. But still, you know, like I needed a sense of security. True or false.
Yeah.
So now it all makes sense. Now I get it.
Yeah.
But it has broken me to like looking at like my little self, because I kind of romanticized the loneliness. It was, you know, melancholy was sweet, and it was like Twilight, you know, like Bella being lonely and whatever, you know. I romanticized it, and now I feel like I'm actually looking at it, and I was like, dude, that's not nice. That's not sweet. That's not, you know, that made you into this person that doesn't let people in. And the people pleasing and the putting others' needs before yours, you know? So like I'm processing all of that, all of like realizing that I am a product of what has happened to me and my decisions. And now it's that moment of like making new decisions of like, okay, it's here. You can see it now. What are you going to do about it? So it's been rough.
I can see that.
Yeah? Did it live up to the hype?
It did live up to the hype. It did. It's so funny. I mean, I can only... I feel like my takeaway from this, it's maybe not quite the end of the episode, but it makes me, like, my recommendation is, I have been reading a lot, and I think it's been trending lately to talk more openly about money, and, like, there's websites like Glassdoor or others where you talk about how much you make. And I saw something the other day on Facebook or Instagram about how you should tell your friends how much you make, and you should tell your coworkers, and so that it's
out in the open and clear,
and like to get a sense of fairness, maybe, and like to gauge how well you're doing, because it can also help you. You know, like if you have a friend who's making twice as much money and you're doing basically the same job, it's like, oh, there's something there, right? So I feel like we treat money with such ambivalence, because there's that part of it's dirty and you don't talk about it, and like,
it's superficial.
And it's a problem, but there's also the fact that, I mean, we need to make money to live, right? And there's
plus I feel like before therapy and everything, at some point I had this thought that money, we could see money as it's a vehicle. It allows us to do things. It allows us to express ourselves and that we care about people, or it allows us to pursue our dream. You know, like money is just that, it's a vehicle. It doesn't have to be dirty. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Or in my case, sorry, it's just like popping in my head. So, or in my case, you know, it's how I feel safe. So if you're like telling me that money is dirty and I should not care for it, then it puts me in a very uncomfortable position of like, well, then how am I gonna feel loved and safe if money is bad, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, I also think a lot about how, like, yeah, money is a vehicle and money can let you do stuff. And I feel like growing up in that, in an environment where I think many people are spoiled, and you have the typical preppy kid who has the dad's like supercar and they can squander money and that kind of thing. There's like this appreciation of money of like when I grew up, where you can waste money because you have it, kind of, and then it changed into, you know, the people that are good, like quote unquote successful people, that are good, like they have done something with their lives or they have built something, are very careful with their money. So it's not bad to be careful with it, to be thoughtful of how you spend money, like where you look for discounts and where you look for savings, and rather than splurging at every turn.
Yeah, like you're not supposed to be too tight.
Yeah,
with your money, which I think it depends on where too tight.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And whenever, like the other day when we were shopping, I kept thinking. I don't know if I told that to the bicha, but I kept thinking of how my grandpa would say that if you want to buy something and you can afford it, you should buy it. Like, money is something that always comes back to you, and you should not think about it. And this is very hippie, I think. Like, you should not think about it in terms of, I don't have money. Like, I'm gonna run out, you know? Like, it should be like, it's coming back to me. Like, it's okay. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I have gotten, especially while being here, and maybe the first month, I don't think I've looked at my bank account so often as I did during the first month being here. I was panicking. Yeah. And I remember when we go to IKEA, and I'm like, oh my god, no, I can't spend more than, I don't know, $200 because this is horrible. No. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's like, I mean, in a sense, I can feel my being spoiled because I have that sense of security of if I am absolutely broke, my family will come and, you know, they'll help me out. Mm-hmm. And many people don't have that. But it's a complicated thing. but no, I can see how it's not necessarily bad. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're aware of it, like mm-hmm. you're now, or with me with my grandma, or you know that like that. And giving people money is not inherently bad either. It's just that if you're not being transparent about it, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing of like it depends on how you use it. Like anything, like everything, it really has no connotation but the one that you give it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean that you're buying relationships.
Oh, that? Oh. Yeah, that was rough. That was hard. But, you know, like, I found
you're Emily Gilmore too.
Yeah. I found peace in the realization. Like, it has hurt me, mm-hmm. like, very few things in my life. You know? I can count them with my hand. And but in a sense, it's like that thing with my brother where before I would always, you know, think, oh, I need to help him. Oh, mm-hmm. he has all of these problems. Oh, he's struggling with so much, you know, oh, mental health. Oh, like this and that. Mm-hmm. And I have it so much better. It's up to me to mm-hmm. help him.
Yeah.
You know? And it's that where like too much understanding and too much empathy mm-hmm. have cost me many, many times.
Yeah.
Which is another thing that I look back at. I haven't just paid my relationships with money. I have paid for my relationships with too much understanding and too much empathy to where like I didn't know my boundaries. Mm-hmm. But I'm like that's a whole other thing. Mm-hmm. But now with my brother, it's like I feel at peace because I do he's not the villain in my story either. Mm-hmm. You know, he's going through his thing. I'm going through my thing. But just because he's going through his thing doesn't mean that I have to ignore mine.
Yeah.
You know, so like I really feel like that thing that my therapist was doing with like the figurines and whatever, mm-hmm. I really feel like I'm putting myself where I belong mm-hmm. by standing my ground mm-hmm. of like, I don't need to make things up with it. I don't need to make it better right now. It doesn't need to mm-hmm. come from me.
Yeah.
Like it's okay. And I'm not mad at him. I'm not, you know, like I was sort of mad because I was hurt. Mm-hmm. You know, and I was disappointed in many, many things. But now I'm just like, he's doing his thing. And he needs to do his thing. And if he doesn't do his thing, well, that's his thing. But yeah. I am doing mine, and I'm okay, you know. But still, the process is not done. Going to a therapy session is not
a one-time thing.
Yeah, and it's not the destination, you know. It's still like a stop in the journey. So maybe I'll keep you posted on how it goes. But yeah,
nice. I had a question, but you kind of already answered it, and I kind of lost the second part of like how you. Oh, well, if you're gonna stop keeping a tally on your relationships and what people owe you.
I don't know. Like it's been so difficult. I really want to stop, mm-hmm. but then I feel like if I don't keep tracks on it, I'm just gonna fall back in the same thing of like, oh, it's okay. Oh, I got it. Oh, no, like, what about you? You know?
Yeah.
So I think I'm in the process of learning what to do or how to do it. And because I don't know, I'm just like, I guess I'll keep track.
Yeah.
So yeah, if anybody knows what I can do,
if
feel free.
Has a suggestion, go ahead.
Yeah.
All right.
This was nice.
Yeah, it was a nice cup of tea. And I guess we'll talk to you next week.
Oh, do you have a rec?
Well, it was just the be like financially honest.
Oh, I don't know if I read this before, but there is the Broken Millennial book.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That one's nice. I listened to that one, and it's not just like about tips that maybe apply to the US but don't apply to Canada, like money tips or whatever, but it's also about relationships, and he talks about your friends, and he talks about like when you're running, when you don't have enough money but you go out with your friends and everybody's like ordering whatever, nobody cares, and then we all split the tab, and it's like, oh hey, but like, and you don't want to speak, but you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she says something like getting financially naked with your partner, you know, and discussing their finances and things. So like, it's nice. I like it. It's like very digestible and sort of like, maybe because we are millennials, maybe because I'm a millennial. So it feels like I'm talking to a peer, you know. So it's nice. It's nice. Yeah. There you go.
Great. Well, see you next week.
Talk to you next week.
Thanks for sharing a cup of tea with us.
To watch more episodes of A Cup of Tea, click the link on the right. If you want to watch Pockets in the Universe, go to the playlist on the left.